Hey everybody, welcome back to What's for Dinner. I'm Mark, I'm a certified health coach, and this is Teresa. She's a board certified family nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
If you guys are new, welcome. We're so excited to have you aboard. And for all of our regulars, welcome back.
Yay.
Super awesome to have everybody. All right, so the theme of tonight we're going to talk about is going to be the sickness epidemic that's sweeping the United States and what you can do. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about that. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but about 3/4 of US adults are overweight or obese.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to imagine that a lot of people wouldn't be surprised by that. They may not know that that's a statistic, but it's very true. And so, I think if you go out and you just kind of look and see people when you're out and about in public and whatnot, it won't surprise you too much. So as I was researching today, there was the statistic that really caught my attention and was surprising to me was that here in the United States, only 7% of US adults are metabolically healthy. 7%. So now these are outliers now. Those of you out there who are watching,
Yes.
who are actually metabolically healthy, meaning you don't have diabetes, you don't have insulin resistance, you're not pre-diabetic. What else?
Fatty liver.
Fatty liver, would PCOS fall in there?
PCOS.
Yeah, so those kind of things are so prevalent nowadays. And so just to think that we have such a small fraction or small percentage of US people who fall into that category it blew my mind when I saw that.
Yeah.
So, and for you guys out there, 50% drop in sperm count in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's just a lot of infertility, and it's not just the women with PCOS, it's the men too with the sperm count. It's very sad.
Yeah, 15% of couples have trouble conceiving. That was what also came out of that research. So 40% of the United States population has at least one chronic disease. That's one chronic permanent disease they're going to have, pretty much for the rest of their life. The good news is if it's diabetes, it's not chronic. You can actually reverse that.
Right.
But anyway, 8% of the US population has an autoimmune condition. So things like thyroid disease, lupus, and rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
So the sad part about this is that 80% of those people in the US with those conditions, those autoimmune conditions, are women.
Right. And women are gaslit the most. So
yeah. So that's the doom and gloom part of it, right? So the good news is there's ways we can get around this. There's ways we can fix it. There's things we can do. So Teresa's going to talk a little bit about some of those things. So she's got quite a bit to talk to you about.
Well, so if you are in corporate medicine and you have diabetes, they tell you there's nothing you can do for it. It's a chronic and progressive disease. The reason it's a chronic and progressive disease is because of the way they treat it. They don't want you reversing it. So you get diagnosed with diabetes. It essentially means insulin resistance. It essentially means you're allergic to or intolerant of carbohydrates, sugars. So the logical thing is then to cut down on those carbohydrates. Just like when people are allergic to peanuts, we don't let them eat peanuts. But what they tell you to do is once you get diagnosed, they tell you, okay, now eat 60 grams of carbs per meal and 15 grams per snack and have at least 2, if not 3 snacks a day. So you're already diabetic and intolerant of carbohydrates. And now, I don't know what that math is right away, but it's about 150 or 180 grams of carbs a day. Like if you do that, you will stay diabetic. Okay. There is nothing about that is going to reverse diabetes. Diabetes type 2 is 100% reversible, especially if you catch it early. Now, if you go 50 years, your pancreas is cranking out insulin and stuff like that, you could become insulin dependent over time because you've wore your pancreas out. But if you're still relatively young, and probably 60 and below, you could reverse your diabetes, but you can't eat all those carbohydrates. So the best thing to do is to get a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor that you wear on the back of your arm. The Stelo by Dexcom is now available over the counter. And you just go to Stelo.com and you can buy it right off their website. It's $99 for 2 sensors that last 1 month. Each sensor lasts 14 days. You can see exactly what you're doing and what happens when you eat a certain food. So then you could see as a diabetic, when you eat 60 grams of carbs for lunch or breakfast, what your blood sugar does. You're going to be like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows too, I'm going to drop a link to the website, the Dexcom website, where they actually have that Stelo. So, and that'll be for those of you on YouTube, it's going to be in the description section. And for those of you guys on Facebook, it's going to be in a comment that Teresa's going to drop in there. And just so everybody knows, we have no financial association with Dexcom or the Stelo whatsoever. So we don't get any money out of that. It's just purely information for you guys.
Yep. So I know somebody that is a diabetic. Their A1C is 8.0, which is terrible. But truth be told, the American Diabetic Association and the American Endocrinology Association is happy with an A1C of 7 to 7.2. An A1C, hemoglobin A1C, is how corporate medicine diagnoses you with diabetes. By the time you get the diagnosis with the hemoglobin A1C, your insulin has been high for about 15 years. You could have seen it coming, and you're really sick by the time you get diagnosed through corporate medicine.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways that we look at this coming. So it's fasting insulin, triglycerides divided by your HDL. You want that ratio 1.5 or below. Waist to height ratio. You want your waist to be at least half or less than your height. And then fasting insulin.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you walk up to a wall and your belly hits first, that's another indication. So these people walking around beer bellies, like in the 80s and 90s, we used to tease like, oh, they have a beer belly. A beer belly is visceral fat, and that is bad and very dangerous.
Yeah, when Teresa's talking about against a wall, so you want if your belly hits, if you're walking up and you're facing a wall and your belly hits before your toes do, that's what she's referring to. So
yeah,
just for clarification.
Yeah, because you are more detail oriented. But anyway, this person that has an A1C of 8 went to the pharmacy to try and get this Stelo Dexcom, and the pharmacist told her there's no such thing. It's a lie, or they're lazy. I mean, maybe they don't know anything about it, but if a patient walks up and says there's an over-the-counter CGM and I want it, we should just go back and Google it real quick and see if that's the case.
Yeah.
But they told her all you have to do, you don't need a CGM, just buy a glucometer. So the little thing you stick your fingers, hurts so bad. Stick your finger twice a day. Twice a day. They told her to stick your finger and see what your blood sugar is fasting at some point in the day. And then the second time you want to check it is after your largest meal. And I'm just like, what is that even going to tell you?
Doesn't give you any information whatsoever.
None.
Barely.
So I'm going to show you a CGM for my patient that I show every single patient that walks in my office. I've had this data for about 7 years. She's a diabetic. And so
let me tell them about the CGM too, just so you guys know. The CGM goes on the back of your arm. It also takes a reading, excuse me. Each CGM you wear for about 2 weeks. It takes a reading every 15 minutes. And then what happens is as you eat and you do activities throughout the day, you keep a log, like a written journal of all the things you're doing. So you can actually reference like what time in the day your blood sugar did this and that. And so it's a much more accurate way to track. So go ahead on.
So this woman at the time was 59 years old, and her A1C was 6.6. So she's a full-blown diabetic. So she had donuts, burger and a bun, apple and peanut butter, pasta salad, and a turkey sandwich. Besides the burger, hopefully it was beef, this is all sugar. Everyone knows this is sugar, donuts, but people forget that apple and pasta and sandwiches are also sugar. So if this woman had checked her blood sugar twice a day and that was it, she's going to miss. Because she's a diabetic, when she rises, her body is insulin resistant. So she stays up here for way too long, damaging her small vessels, which are the heart, eyes, brain, kidney, penis in men for erectile dysfunction. She stays up here for a long time before her body figures it out. Then she crashes. If the person I'm talking about checked her blood sugar twice a day, like the pharmacist said, depending on when she checked it, she might get to here. That's a 50-point rise. She may think donuts, that's my favorite meal. 50-point rise is worth it. But she's going to miss another 50 points in 2 hours staying here, okay, doing damage. And then when you crash, you're just like irritated. All the people around you are stupid. They breathe too loud. They ask the dumbest questions. How do you get off this team? In my addict days, when I got here, I would have had low-fat yogurt, low-fat granola, an apple, peach, or a banana, which is all sugar, no nutrients, no protein, nothing. And then you come up and you're like, I love this team. You guys are amazing. You're my favorites. And then you're cray. And then you're here. And we're not even talking about hormones. We're just talking about food. So if someone like this checked their sugar twice a week or twice a day, they're not going to get this data and they won't understand it.
Yeah.
This is a diabetic. Okay. This is one of our kids, Nate. And this is a federally regulated breakfast for nursing home, hospitals, and schools. So oatmeal, 2 packs. I gave the kids low sugar. They were 12 when they wore these. Half a banana, some yogurt, and a granola bar. And my kid, because he's not a diabetic, was perfectly fine, ate that meal, shot straight up like this lady. But because he's not a diabetic, he corrects himself very quickly and comes right back down rather than her staying up here for a couple hours doing damage. But When you fall from 250 straight down to 95, it's still reactive hypoglycemia. It still feels terrible. And it's still not that great to do every single day, 3 times a day, plus 2 snacks. So,
Yeah.
so just to finish this out, in between, we had eggs and bacon. That's our norm, nothing to your blood sugar. And then they went to a back to school party and they had burgers, chips, cookies, ice cream, and cake. And that blood sugar is the same as what the government guidelines have been telling you to eat since the 70s. And you wonder why we're all sick.
Wow.
So food matters.
It does.
So the kid, Nate, was just up here with his girlfriend and we were talking about calories and stuff. And she was saying she's cut out sugar and stuff, but she doesn't like when people say, oh, you can have a Big Mac and, Dairy Queen, as long as it fits your calories that you're supposed to have in the day. So we were just talking about that. And I said, yeah, same calories of a banana or chocolate cake is not the same calories of a ribeye and broccoli. First of all, there's nutrients in ribeye and broccoli, and you can't overeat ribeye and broccoli, but you can overeat ice cream and cake and all that stuff.
For sure.
So,
yeah. Did you want to touch on, are you good with that
Yeah.
right now? Did you want to touch on too cancer and environmental factors again real quick? Because cancer is another big metabolic disease.
Yeah.
And we talked about chronic disease. And so
Yeah.
what you eat also matters a lot for cancer.
It does. And so the top 12 cancers, 9 of them are metabolic disorders. So I do hormones. So people are always worried about breast cancer and prostate cancer for men and then breast cancer for women. And I say, if you're really worried about breast cancer, you should cut out your sugars, because prostate cancer and breast cancer are highly driven by insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if you go back to hormones part 3, the ins and out of hormones part 3, I showed you the book Estrogeneration, which talks about all the chemicals that are causing breast cancer. And so there was another study that just came out this year saying breast cancer, most of it is caused by chemical and environmental factors.
Yeah.
Red 40. I forgot to say on that post too, if you're anybody listening to this, man or woman, because men have women they love, you have to stop using feminine products that are not organic, because feminine products have glyphosate in there. And that is an absorptive area, the vaginal area, and you're going to just absorb that into your system. And you are just going to be at a high risk for lots of things. So I personally think the actual hormones that God made us with is not causing the majority of hormone receptive breast cancers. I think it's environmental. And when we talk about hormone receptive breast cancers, which is in that Estrogeneration book, you're also talking about kidneys and skin. You can have estrogen receptive breast cancers pretty much in your whole entire body. So we just have to be careful.
Teresa mentioned a part 3 or whatever that you mentioned that as. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a 3-part series on hormones. So if you guys go back a couple of weeks, you'll be able to see those. She spoke pretty extensively about this. So
yeah, very detailed.
Very detailed. Yeah. So what else?
So what you eat matters. What you put on your skin matters. What you put for a tampon or a pad matters. I mean, all of these things matter. And I don't want you to be obsessive and like freaking out about all of it, because it's impossible to change it all.
Yeah.
But I feel like we need to start changing just a few things, maybe 3 things, pick and change. And your 3 things might be completely different from your best friend's 3 things, or even mine, but we got to start changing somewhere.
Yeah.
We can't keep sitting around and waiting for the government to tell us how to live, how to, eat, all of that. Like you guys are in charge of that. Yeah. Stop outsourcing it to people. The people you're outsourcing it to are bought and paid for by pharma, big pharma.
Yeah, there's too much money, too much incentive to earn money to steer you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, there's conflicts of interest.
100%. So and baby steps with that, guys. So just don't try and change the world overnight, or your world overnight. Start slow and just start implementing, and getting started is the hardest part. So if you find one little fairly easy thing you can make a change, start with that, and then the momentum gets going, and you kind of has a snowball effect.
Yep.
That's what
the first thing I would do is stop drinking out of plastic water bottles.
Yeah.
I would get a Yeti or something that is, and even the BPA free stuff, I'm not really sure how BPA free it is.
Yeah.
And what's the Nalgene? That's the one I was thinking of.
Bottles, yeah.
So I would just start taking glass or something else, stainless steel. I would stop drinking out of plastic water bottles.
The good thing is they have the glass ones now that have like the rubber coating that goes around them and stuff. So that'll protect them, keep them from shattering.
Yep.
So you can start there. That's good.
It's a perfect place to start.
What else?
I don't know. I think that's about it.
Okay.
But you guys are in charge of your health.
Yeah.
They want you to think you have to have a pill or an injection to be healthy. And that's not true. If you have blood pressure, but your blood pressure goes down because you have a pill on board, that doesn't mean you don't have blood pressure anymore. It just means you're stifling it with this pill. You can't go to the bank and get $1 million loan and then call yourself a millionaire. You're just $1 million in debt. So take charge at some point. Let's just do it.
100%. Yeah. All right. Well, like I mentioned before, for those of you who are interested, I'm going to drop where we're going to drop the information on the Stelo Dexcom in the description and or the comment sections. So if you guys are interested, get one of those for yourself, then go ahead and check that out. And if you guys find this information that we've been putting out helpful to you, if you haven't already, consider liking our Facebook page or subscribing to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And then, all the little hearts and love signs and things like that you send us, and comments are tremendously helpful too. Not only do they help our algorithm, but if you have something constructive in the comments,
Yes.
you never know who it can help.
Yes.
So, all right, guys, as always, we love you all
So much.
God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.